did. Next slide, please. So this is what we did. We had PXO1, which is a megaplasmid, 185 kilo base. So what we did, we designed the primer so that we can amplify protective antigen gene and put it in an expression vector, ligate it and put it in E. coli, grow the culture, and then try to extract vaccine out of it. May I have the next slide? Are you able to see the full slides?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Full slides are visible.
All right. All right. Please mute yourself. Yeah. So if you look at this gel picture, uh, the E. coli cells were expressing protective antigen. We did few steps of purification and purified this vaccine, which was better than 95% pure. And we wanted to check whether this molecule is biologically identical to the one which is produced by the Bacillus anthracis, which can cause the infection. Next slide, please. Okay, if you try to recall the cartoon I showed you, that protective antigen can come and bind to a high affinity receptor on all eukaryotic cells. So what we did, we took recombinant antigen as well as native antigen, which we made from Bacillus anthracis, and we radioiodinated it and then exposed it to the cell surface of eukaryotic cells to see whether it is able to bind to the high affinity receptor or not. So what we did this assay at 4 degrees centigrade so that it cannot enter the cell, it can only bind. Once it was bound, we removed the unbound protective antigen and then tried to see how many, how many counts per minute we can get on the cell surface. And we could see that about 7 nanogram of the protective antigen could bind to per milligram cell. So there was we made a calculation about 15,000 receptors were present and it could bind to all of them. So it was a proof that the recombinant antigen we made was similar to native antigen in terms of its binding to the cell surface receptor. Next slide, please. Again, I told you that 83 kilodalton is broken down to 63 sitting on the cell surface. So we try to do this experiment to see whether the protease sitting on the cell surface is able to recognize protective antigen as good as the native antigen to see whether it can clip from 83 to 63. And this slide very clearly shows that 83 kilodalton molecule was easily converted to 63 kilodalton molecule, which is a prerequisite for binding to lethal factor as well as edema factor. Next slide, please. Now we wanted to see whether this 63 kilodalton molecule is able to bind to lethal factor or not. And this slide clearly shows that here you have the protective antigen, here you have the lethal factor, but once it binds, it makes a high molecular weight complex. And therefore, it was proved beyond doubt that it can bind. We wanted to do the same experiment on cell culture. May I have the next slide? And finally, we wanted to check whether protective antigen plus lethal factor is able to kill the cells. As I told you, lethal factor is able to kill the cells. So what we did, we took recombinant protective antigen and we put different amount of it and added lethal factor and tried to see on macrophage cell line whether it is able to kill the cells or not. And if you look at this graph, the native antigen as well as recombinant antigen, the graphs are almost superimposable. Okay, so we could prove that they are able to kill to protective to the macrophages in terms of equal concentration. Next slide, please. Then finally, the proof lies in really eating if you want to make a good cake. So what we try to do, we try to see whether if we take mouse model, whether it is able to protect the mouse uh, from Bacillus anthracis infection. So what we did, we took our vaccine, recombinant protective antigen, injected in mouse model, and after 28 days, we gave the booster dose. I mean, these days, this is a common man's knowledge that you are getting Covishield, then you are getting a booster, you are getting Covaxin, getting a booster. So similar experiment we did with mouse model, and then we challenge them after 28 days whether the infection occurs or not. As you are hearing these days that the WHO definition is any vaccine which gives 50% protection is a good vaccine. Okay, so we could get about 66% protection in mouse model, both by native antigen as well as by recombinant antigen. So we were very happy that it is successful in mouse model. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. No, previous one. Yeah. So we wanted to check whether guinea pigs are also protected or not. Let me tell you, mouse is a very sensitive model because only 5 spores can kill mouse. Okay. So any vaccine which gives you good protection in mouse model is going to give better protection in guinea pig model and even better protection in rabbit model as well as monkey model. So we went step by step. So this is guinea pig data where we could get about 80% protection without any problem. Next slide, please. And once we tried New Zealand rabbits or monkeys, we could get up to 100% protection. So it was a wonderful experiment which gave us a lot of confidence that this vaccine can perhaps go for human beings. May I have the next slide? Okay. Now at this stage, a pharmaceutical company contacted us. They were interested in buying this technology and taking it to the industry. And they were ready to give me total 40 lakhs of rupees in 10 installments. So 4 lakhs they wanted to give when I give them the clone. So I said, why do you want to take the clone? So they said, we are going to run, big fermenters to find out whether your clone can make economically viable amounts so that the company can make some profits. So I asked him a simple question. What if they don't make? He said, we will return your clone. I said, if you copy my clone before returning, what happens? And you come after 2 years that we have in-house developed this technology and you go to the market, what do I do? So they say, no, we will sign an agreement that we will not do this. I said, even if you violate that agreement, I don't have financial muscles to go to the court and fight against a big pharmaceutical company. So then what I did, I went to DBT again and asked them that this is the situation. Is it possible for you to give me more funding so that I can buy these fermenters, bioreactors in my laboratory, and I can upscale, and then I can talk to the companies that after upscaling, how many doses it can make. So DBT agreed, and they gave us the money to buy bioreactors, and we optimized the conditions, and finally we were able to develop the technology to make 1 million shots per liter. You know, these days, every day you are seeing that companies are not able to make the desired amount of vaccines. So I think the same challenge we had, but we solved it by taking these fermenters. And you know, we did study in a 5-liter fermenter. If the same thing can be upscaled in the industry, they have 1,000-liter fermenters. So if we can make 1 million shots, they can make 1 billion shots, correct? So therefore, when we reached to this stage, we thought, let us invite companies and ask them to compete, and anybody who gives us the best offer, we are going to give the technology to the company. So what I did, first, you know, a company came and they wasted my 2 months. They used to always give me some homework. Okay, could you please write down this and send my email, and the vice president will look at, president will look at. So I kept doing that for about a month, and then I said, enough is enough. Thank you very much. Then I decided to write 10 emails to 10 big biopharma companies and ask them, we have cloned, overexpressed, and bioprocess optimize the production of protective antigen. It gives protection in the animal model. We would like company to join hands and take it for preclinical studies to see the toxicity. We would like to do a major big animal efficacy studies, followed by human clinical trials, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and eventually phase 4. So if you are interested, please contact us. I tell you, all 10 companies responded positively, but one company was bullish. They came to my office within an hour because the company was Delhi based. So they came and say, we are very serious about buying this technology. So I said, who can take decision to buy this technology? He said, my managing director. I said, are you managing director of the company? He said, no, I'm a general manager. I said, then I would only like to talk to your managing director. And remember, there are 3 conditions to talk. Number 1, your company decision maker has to come. I don't talk free with the company people. So I'm going to charge 5,000 rupees an hour to talk. Second thing, he has to bring his checkbook so that if the deal is made, he gives me some token advance, otherwise deal is not done. So they said all these conditions are acceptable to my managing director because they spoke to him over the cell phone. So then I said, okay, he can come over. So the person came over and he said that I will take you 3 hours and I'm ready to risk 15,000 rupees. First hour I am going to take to talk to you. I am a chemistry honors from Delhi University, followed by I am from this MBA. And if I understand well, then I will call my experts. You can talk to them technically. And if they suggest to buy this technology, third hour I am going to invest in negotiating the price. So I said, very good. So we sat for 1 hour. With the help of those cartoons, I tried to explain him what this vaccine is. He said, in 20 minutes I could explain him. And 20 minutes he said, I think I should call my team. So he called his team. So the vaccine production guy came, animal efficacy trials came, the clinical trial person came, the IPR person came. So all of them came. And I made a proper presentation like this. And they also liked the technology and they said we would like to buy it. Then the third hour we spent to negotiate the price. So then this guy asked me that how much you would like to charge for it. Since the previous company was paying 40 lakhs and we did not have this much technology at that time. So I thought easily I can ask for 1 crore. So I said that we can offer you this clone for 1 crore. He said, I agree, given. So I thought maybe I have asked too little money. So how to increase the price now? I have already told them. So I said, but you remember, this 1 crore price is for only Indian market. If you want to explore international market, then the price is 2 crores. So easily I could double the price. So he said, no, I can give you 1.5 crores. I said, why not 2 crores and why you are increasing only by 50 lakhs? He said, because I am not very sure that we can exploit the international market, but I want to block the international market for anybody else. So I'm giving you 50 lakhs. I said, if that is the case, let's make 2 contracts, one for Indian market, one for international market. And if you don't exploit the international market, I don't need your 1 crore. So the person said, I didn't quite catch that. Could you? So then the person said that no. I'll give you 2 crores. And I want to have the total rights. I don't want to have half rights. So he agreed to give me this technology, take this technology for 2 crores. He asked me, Dr. Saab, aur kuch chahiye? So I thought still there is some scope. So we can ask something. So I said, I am giving you the clone for 2 crores. So you have bought the clone, not me. So if you need me for something, you have to pay extra. So he said, yes, we will need you. So I said, then you have to use my brain, you have to pay me consultancy. So he asked me, how much do I have to pay for consultancy? I said, it depends. How long do you want to consult? So he said, at least we will consult you for next 2 years. So I said, but remember, consultation fee is to consult me. You can consult me over the phone. You can consult me by writing an email. You can consult by sitting in my office, but you haven't hired me. And this fee will be for 2 years, 1 lakh rupees per month, that is 24 lakhs. So he agreed on that. So then he asked any other thing. So I said, remember, suppose you need some help to be done in the company, then my students will go and help you. But again, they will not go free of cost. You have to pay them money. So he asked how much money I have to pay them. I said 5,000 rupees a day. You can use them as long as you want. So I still remember that once this technology was announced by Minister of Science and Technology, and they had a training for about 5 months in my laboratory. When they wanted to take the clone to their laboratory, next day I got a call, sorry, it doesn't make protective antigen. I said, you were making protective antigen with your own hands, and how come it is not making over there? So they needed my students to help. I said, okay, I can send my students. And I remember one of the students who was married and his child had some he was little retarded. So he went and worked in the company for 37 days and he got some 1.7 lakhs of rupees, and he immediately bought a old-fashioned Maruti car, 800. So he became overnight rich and he started driving the car and his little child enjoyed the ride. So I was very happy when I saw him with his family in the car. So we transferred the technology and then we sent our students to make 5 batches of the vaccine under GMP conditions so that the product which they have made can go for toxicity testing in a company in Bangalore. Uh, and there, they did about 1 year studies and they could see that there is no toxicity of the vaccine. Then they wanted that there should be uh, monkey trials. So they did monkey trials with this product and it was successful. Monkeys were 100% protected. And then they wanted to do human clinical trials. And may I have the next slide, please? So I think this is what I was telling. The technology was transferred to the company. The scientists from the company came for training. And then our students went to produce this product in their company. The scientists made 5 batches and the toxicity studies were done to convince the Drug Controller of India that human clinical trials can be done safely. And then phase 1, phase 2 trials have been completed and the company is putting the data together to do the phase 3 clinical trials. Next slide, please. So now phase 2 trials have been completed and this has given us several national and international patents. Next slide, please. But the work never stops. Once we were successful in making the vaccine, we wanted to make the vaccine better. As I told you, protective antigen is a good antigen. But if you have little amount of lethal factor and little amount of edema factor, it makes a better vaccine. But you cannot add them because they are toxic. So therefore, we wanted to make mutations in the genes of lethal factor, edema factor, and protective antigen so that any step in the intoxication process is not done and they can safely be added in the vaccine. Next slide, please. For example, this is one of the domains where protective antigen is involved in binding to lethal factor and edema factor. So what we did, these 4 yellow amino acids, we changed to alanine by side-directed mutagenesis, and the molecule became non-toxic. Next slide. Next slide. Similarly, this is another domain where membrane insertion occurs. These 2 amino acids, leucine and tryptophan, if they change to alanine, it becomes non-toxic. Next slide. Similarly, domain 3, which is involved in oligomerization of the protective antigen, these 4 amino acids, phenylalanine, isoleucine, leucine, and again isoleucine, if they are changed to alanine, you can safely add to the vaccine. Next slide. Similarly, when we compared the sequence of lethal factor with edema factor, there were 7 amino acids in a row which were exactly the same. So we thought perhaps these residues are involving in binding with protective antigen. So we changed them one by one. Next slide. And we could see all these gray residues, tyrosine, isoleucine, lysine, aspartic acid. If you change them to alanine, they become non-toxic. They cannot bind to protective antigen. Next slide, please. Similarly, the same 4 residues were found to be involved in binding in edema factor. And if you change them to alanine, it becomes non-toxic. Next slide, please. Another thing we wanted to do, whether instead of making the protein, growing the cells in fermenter, making the proteins, and more proteins are always likely to be inactivated. Therefore, we wanted to make DNA vaccine against anthrax. So this is just a model. Next slide. So what we did, we took protective antigen 63 kilodalton gene and tried to add certain sequences upstream or downstream so that we can direct the protective antigen into the desired compartment of the cell to see that immunization is very good. So these yellow ones, when we have put this LAMP sequence and TPS sequence, I think they were the best, and they could give us about 88% protection against the disease. Next slide. Then, this 83 kilodalton molecule, it's a huge molecule. We wanted to know what is the real domain which is giving protection. So what we did, we used a software by Professor Raghava, who is going to give a talk, I think after me or maybe tomorrow, okay? So, tomorrow is his talk. Tomorrow, okay? So we use his software and try to find what are the domains which are really giving protection against the anthrax. So we checked and we found 3 peptides which were very immunogenic, and we made an artificial peptide 50 amino acids long, which can give complete protection against the disease. I mean, as good as protective antigen from recombinant or native antigen. Next slide. Next slide. Then, a development was taking place that if you express the protective antigen in plants, you can make edible vaccine, particularly for animals. So first we did the study, a model study in a model plant, tobacco, and it was successful. But tobacco, you cannot ask animals or human beings to chew, otherwise they will be intoxicated. So we put this gene into tomatoes. Next slide, please. And then we purified and tested in animal model, and we were very happy to see that this edible vaccine was able to protect the animals to the extent normal vaccine did. So now we are changing from tomato to sorghum. Sorghum is a thing which is usually fed to the animals. It's very cheap crop. So tomatoes, are expensive even for human beings. So we cannot throw away tomatoes to the animals. Okay, next slide, please. Now let us talk about, suppose you have not taken the vaccine. See, this is question being asked, what to do if you have not taken the vaccine and you get COVID or you get anthrax. So we found 3 strategies. One was, a antitoxin mediated therapy, which I collaborated with Professor Sonika. And second, I collaborated with one of my colleagues in JNU, that is Dr. Abhinav Grover. He suggested some novel inhibitors. And the third thing which we did, we produced antibodies against lethal factor. So I'm going to share you in next 15 minutes this, so that at least 10-15 minutes are there for asking question in case somebody wants to ask. Next slide, please. So these are the antibiotics currently being used. But as I told you, that if you have inhalation anthrax, there is no point in taking the antibiotics. The person is going to die. Next slide. So this is, toxin antitoxin model, which I think we together with Sonika ji created. And we wanted if this interaction between toxin and toxin can be inhibited by designing certain peptides. and then the toxin molecule can kill Bacillus anthracis. It is something like committing suicide. So this is what we wanted to induce. So we did this study with Professor Sonika and published many papers on that. And then she suggested certain peptides which were synthesized by a company. Next slide. This is to show that Bacillus anthracis has this gene, and we found that this gene is ribonuclease, so it can chop off the ribonucleic acid, and then the bacteria can die. Next slide. So as she suggested, we synthesized many peptides, but unfortunately, this could give us maximum up to 40% killing of the bacteria. We could not achieve about 100%. So it seems that some more modification or some more small molecules are needed to kill Bacillus anthracis 100%. Next slide. Now, if you look at this cartoon again, which I showed you earlier, if you try to inhibit the interaction of protective antigen with lethal factor, cell death cannot occur. So I collaborated with my colleague Abhinav Grover. So he suggested me certain inhibitors by doing his bioinformatics study, and we tried that. In next slide. See, this is one molecule. It's a big molecule, whatever they call it. I call it QDH in short. So this can block the interaction of lethal factor with the edema factor. Okay, so we use this, and we saw that it is really able to inhibit the killing. May I have the next slide? So here, if you look at, it was able to give about 80% protection against the killing. And this SPR analysis shows that it inhibits the binding. Next slide. Similarly, he suggested this molecule, he calls it TGG, which again goes and blocks the interaction between them. And next slide will show you this was also able to give about 80% protection. So now the animal studies are in progress to see whether it can protect the animals or not. Next slide. Now, you know, the currently available post-exposure therapy is just antibiotics. So next slide, I think you may click many times so that the whole thing is available, okay? All right. So when the infection occurs, what happens? You want to kill the bacteria, that is one thing, which is possible by using antibiotics. But what happens that too much toxin gets accumulated once the person is sick and you do not know, you don't start the antibiotics. And you start seeing the symptoms when too much toxin has been accumulated in the blood, okay? So at this stage, even if you give any amount of antibiotics, it doesn't help. So the trick is, if you can neutralize the toxin and give antibiotics so that bacteria are killed and no more new toxin is produced, perhaps you can control the situation. So we thought, why not to create an antibody against lethal factor? And we wanted to create an antibody in the common region. I showed you 7 amino acids, which were exactly the same in lethal factor and edema factor. If we create the antibody against that and use that, so neither the edema factor will be able to act nor the lethal factor. And antibiotics will kill the bacteria to produce any more toxin, and perhaps we can win the war. Okay, next slide, please. So this is what we suggested, that toxin and bacteria both are present. Bacteria can be killed by antibiotics, but toxin cannot. Toxin can still kill the person, and therefore antibodies are needed. That's what we did in the next slide. So what we did, we took the antibody, we took the region and produced antibody in mouse, hybridoma, which can bind to lethal factor as well as edema factor. So normal course, lethal factor can bind here, edema factor can bind here. But if you have the antibody which can bind to both these molecules, this binding cannot take place, and therefore this molecule cannot act. So this is the trick we are working on. Next slide, please. So this is the common region we raised antibodies against. Next slide, please. Yeah. So we injected this region which contains these 7 amino acids in a row and immunized the animal. Antibodies were produced. They were fused with myeloma cells, and hybridoma was selected, and monoclonal antibodies were made. Next slide, please. And we found that these antibodies are able to block the action of lethal factor. Next slide, please. Even in mouse footpad model, see, this is the edema you can see, but if you put this antibody, there is no edema. So we were very happy to see these results. Next slide. So now you know if you use only PBS, you get 0% protection. If you use antibodies, you get about 60% protection. But if you use antibody and ciprofloxacin antibiotics, you get 100% protection in the mouse model. But this, remember, this antibody is in mouse, okay? You cannot use it for humans. Otherwise, anti-mouse antibody will be produced in human, and immune complex will be formed and it will be removed. So therefore, these days we are trying to create humanized antibodies. Okay, next slide, please. Achha, there is one more work which we did, that this spore, when it tries to enter the cell, there is a protein which is very much involved in this BCLA. So we also took BCLA gene, and next slide, we cloned it, expressed it, next slide, and make this this molecule, so that if this molecule and protective antigen both are fused, so that we can make a protein which will make two kinds of antibodies, which will not allow spores to enter and which will not allow protective antigen to enter and take the toxin in. Next slide. So this is again to show that this strategy works in the mouse model. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so this is the result, that if we do animal experiments, we can protect the animal completely. Next slide. Similarly, this protein also gives 100% protection, okay, in the mouse model. Next slide. I think you can skip this slide, maybe. So in conclusion, I can say that we have cloned overexpressed protective antigen gene, bioprocess optimized its production for industrial application. Recombinant protective antigen was found to be biologically identical to native antigen. Technology for producing recombinant vaccine was transferred to the industry. Phase 1 and phase 2 human clinical trials based on recombinant protective antigen have been completed, and vaccine is ready for phase 3 clinical trials. Non-toxic variants of protective antigen, lethal factor, and edema factors were produced for the development of better vaccine against anthrax. Protective antigen-based DNA vaccine was also developed. B-cell epitope-based peptide vaccines were also developed. Protective antigen was expressed in tobacco and tomato to develop edible vaccine against anthrax. Toxin antitoxin based antimicrobials were tested. However, we got only 40% protection. Efforts to develop a single chain antibodies are going on. Toxin antitoxin system of the pathogen was also exploited for creating certain molecules which can perhaps kill the bacteria. The bispecific monoclonal antibodies were developed, which gave very good results in mouse model, and now we are working on humanizing these antibodies. Certain novel inhibitors were selected, which gave 80% protection, and animal studies are going on. Any other points? Next slide, please. So at last, I would like to acknowledge, my special thanks go to Department of Biotechnology, who have funded me for the last 25 years. The Indian Council of Agriculture Research, which funded for edible vaccine. Indian Council of Medical Research gave money for fermental studies, and CSIR gave money for making the vaccine non-toxic, and Department of Science and Technology gave money for making these bispecific antibodies. And I would be failing in my duties if I don't acknowledge my PhD students who work day and night in the lab, and because of them, I always say they worked and only talk. So, and my collaborators, Dr. Singh, Dr. Anand Kumar, Dr. Abhinav Grover, Sonika, and many others who have helped us from time to time to do our work. Next slide. Just to give you a glimpse, you have been talking about, you have been seeing in the newspaper, they are talking about BSL-2, BSL-3 laboratories. So this is my BSL-3 laboratory, which is needed to work on anthrax. Next slide. So this is how it looks inside. Next slide. This is, the corridors to go to either to animal areas or to go to molecular biology laboratory. Next slide. So these are the cages where we put our animals and do animal studies. This is a regular molecular biology laboratory. Next. So this is, a small group I have, and some of them have already gone out. So now the group is very small. So I am again trying to enhance the size of my group. So thank you very much for your patience. In case somebody has a question, I'll be very happy to answer.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir, for your time and insightful lecture. So your presentation was not only interesting, but also, it's effective in understanding the aspects of recombinant vaccine development, and specifically the practical implications and the practical exposure we got, how to transfer a technology from laboratory to industry. That was very significant. So now the session is open for the queries. So we'll be having
I'll just ask one thing which keeps occurring to me. How do you make a vaccine edible, in the sense that since it's protein, doesn't it get digested?
Yeah, you are right. See what happens. There are many edible vaccines. For example, if you take polio drops, okay, they also get some kind of degradation. But let us say until now, no edible vaccine is successful, okay? And nothing is in the market. But what happens once your protective antigen goes inside, even if it gets chopped into small peptides, they go through the M cells of intestine and then go to the next lymphatic station. So even these peptides are good enough to be displayed on the cell surface and induce immune response. So there are a lot of experimental studies which are successful, including ours. And we were the pioneer in anthrax edible vaccine. We were the first one to do. But still there is nothing in the market. But now we are trying to, from tomatoes, we are going to sorghum, and DBT has already approved a project, and which I am doing in collaboration with one of my younger colleagues, Dr. Manoj Sharma. And hopefully, because sorghum is always added to the fodder, so we can add it a little bit so that it induces some immunity and animals don't become sick. If animals don't become sick, we don't become sick.
So we'll take up questions. Sir, one question from Mr. Ashok Behra. The question is how you design peptides. Are they randomly the sequences, or is there any basis to select amino acids?
I think Sonika will be the right person because she designed the peptides.
So
But
actually,
I can tell you that she would have designed based on the structure of antitoxin, so that it comes and binds to the antitoxin and blocks the site where toxin was supposed to bind, and therefore toxin will be freely available and it will kill the cells. Am I right, Sonika?
absolutely, absolutely. So we did some pretty advanced 3D structural modeling there. And I think that very much shows the success of the structure-based design approach, where you study the structure of the binding site and you actually decide what goes in there. And if you try to make these kind of peptides randomly, then you would have to make something like 20 raised to 8. 20 raised to 8 peptides to do this. But for us, most of the peptides that we made had some kind of activity.
So the another question is for mutations, how to select amino acids? Is it random or any reason behind that, sir?
Certainly, there is a reason. First, the studies were done to find out what is the role of each domain. Okay, when we saw that this domain is involved in binding, or this domain is involved in clipping, or this domain is involved in insertion, or domain is involved in translocation. So once we knew this domain is involved, and suppose let us say 10 amino acids are there in that domain, we change one by one and then try to see where we are inhibiting the function.
Okay, so the another question is one technical question: does this recombinant protein contains any tag?
Any tag? No, we have
Tag.
with tag as well as without tag. We have both.
The another question is this inhibitor tested in mice model? What about its mode of administration?
Oh, it was, see, in mouse model, we tried to do intraperitoneally, but I think when we went to monkey model, it was intramuscular.
Yeah. Okay, sir. So some feedbacks from Dr. Khalid, a very wonderful presentation. Then we'll be having from Dr. JC Bose, very nice presentation, sir. And one question is also there. What is the success rate of edible vaccines against enteric pathogens, and which level they induce cell-mediated response?
See, in anthrax, actually, Th2 type response is more important, okay? That means antibody mediated. And we have seen that if you inject, or if you give this edible vaccine to animals, they produce enough antibody to neutralize the toxin. I think you are hearing these days the neutralizing assay by a spike protein all the time, okay? The similar kind of assay we do, even if we dilute our serum 2000-fold, it is able to neutralize the toxin. And that gives a very good confidence that it will be able to protect the animal against infection.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Mr. Ashok Behra would like to learn the technique. Can you show this sometime? So this is the question he asked.
Can you repeat the question again?
Sir,
kindly repeat the question, Akansha.
Okay. Sir, Mr. Ashok Behra would like to learn the techniques. So he is telling maybe you can show sometimes or something like that. He would like to learn.
I think these days,
Dr. Ashok, we do in our lab, and you can write to me at sbhatnagar@nsut.ac.in, we would be happy to involve you in our work.
Sir, there is a question from Dr. Shilpa, who is from NSUT. How much time or like year does it take for the product to come to market actually? But when, yeah.
I tell you, normally it takes 10 to 20 years before you see any vaccine in the market. But I think COVID vaccine has proved us wrong, okay?
Yeah.
Because it was a pandemic, it was, the whole world was affected. So therefore, the things went so fast, which the regulator would have never allowed. They used to always ask tons of questions. They will always meet after months to look at your results, etc. But you have seen that a couple of weeks back, Pfizer sent their data. Immediately it was approved. I think next week Pfizer vaccine is coming. Moderna vaccine is coming. This vaccine is coming. Russian vaccine has come. So many vaccines are coming. So since it was a pandemic, we have shortened the period to 1 year. I wish if these regulators get some lesson and now on they do all the approvals with the same rate, then I think vaccines can be developed very fast. But otherwise, the time taken is 10 to 20 years.
Like, sir, is it like unless there is a pandemic, regulatory authorities will not listen to anything actually? Like the normal course will go on, as you said, like 20 years. It's really a long time and it's a lot of hard work. And one has to keep persistence and perseverance to get up to that level. Because as we all know, like in biotechnology, success rate is not very high. And even like people who are working so hard, and by the time they lose patience and the perseverance also. So I think there is a lesson for regulatory authorities, as you mentioned, like the hard work, like that should be counted, and they should do like what they can do at their end to expedite the things.
I would say most of the time it happens that people lose interest and then they think, what do I have to gain? Let me publish the data, let me guide my PhD student, let me get the promotion, let me retire and say goodbye to this world. Okay, but that's not the way to do the things. For example, there is hardly any difference between phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials. Phase 2 is done in one location and phase 3 is done in 3 locations. In my opinion, phase 2 should be demolished. It should be abolished. And straight away we can move to phase 3. So the time will be saved. But regulator doesn't want to accept it. Any other question?
Yes, a further question, is there any progress to take these vaccines through anti-nasal route? Because this bacteria spores more lethal when infects lungs.
We haven't done that, but there are labs, other labs in United States, etc. They are trying to make it a nasal vaccine also, and I have a feeling that will be very effective because that's the natural route. But we don't work on nasal vaccine.
So another question, sir, is there non-virulent strains of Bacillus anthracis so that BSL-2 facility can be used?
Yes, yes. As I told you in my presentation, that to be pathogenic, this bacteria needs both the plasmids, PXO1 and PXO2. If you cure one, methods are available to cure the toxin, plasmids. So if you cure PXO2, okay, it becomes non-pathogenic. It will not cause the disease. Similarly, if you remove PXO1 and only keep PXO2, it will not cause the disease. It becomes non-pathogenic.
So we'll take up one more question, sir. Have you not tried for COVID vaccine design? What is your view regarding different mutations, COVID vaccine or in COVID?
To tell you very frankly, I moved to Banaras Hindu University about sometimes March 18. And March 18, I did not move my lab over there. My lab was still working in JNU. So whatever was going on, that kept going. All my students who were working, they eventually submitted their thesis. So I did not set up a new lab in BHU because 3 years is a short time. So I returned back. And this COVID happened when I was there in Benares. Suppose I was in JNU, and if I would have been running my laboratory with plenty of students, I'm sure I would have tried my hands also on COVID. And there are many ideas in my mind.
So the question is regarding COVID vaccine, whether they will work in third phase Delta plus virus.
Oh, I have a feeling they will work. The reason is, see, these mutants. See, the moment virus goes into your body, okay, it has to replicate. And while replication, there are some mistakes, which are, it is something like you are writing 100 pages, and sometimes you do a spelling mistake, okay? So same way these spelling mistakes are done, we call it mutations. Some mutations are not to the advantage to the virus, they disappear. But if it is to the advantage of the virus, they remain. So it all depends. If we keep on taking the precautions, COVID appropriate behavior, we don't allow virus to come inside and replicate, okay? Then mutations will be less, all right? And as far as people, create scare, that when, the first mutant came, they said the vaccine may not work. The second mutation came, vaccine may not work. But until now, all the mutations which have come, vaccine is still giving enough protection. So I will not be overly worried unless somebody brings the result that it is not working. Another good thing I would like to share with you, this mRNA technology, which Moderna and Pfizer is following. The good thing about this technology is, this is synthetic mRNA, correct? So suppose virus changes, you can immediately change the sequence, and within 1 month your vaccine will be ready. You can again go for clinical trials and bring the vaccine in. So you will be chasing the virus at what mutations it is making, and you make your vaccine ready. So I think I'm very thankful that I could see in my lifetime a new technology where the time is shortened for development, because you just sequence the mutation and you change that sequence in your machine to synthesize mRNA. It's easy. So there will be a gap of 30 days only. Yeah.
So the another question, sir, please guide what can be the possible vaccines which can be further formulated in edible forms.
What can be the other vaccine? I think each vaccine can be tried, but until now only there are few vaccines. I think cholera vaccine has been tried, edible vaccine, and this E. coli enterobacteria has been tried. So few bugs have been tried, but the field is open. Anybody can try their luck. Just a
Any
minute.
other queries?
Hello. Any other question?
No, I think there are no other questions, sir. So we are really thankful to you, sir, for accepting our invitation for this talk. It was a very informative talk, and you covered a journey of like 25 years within 1 hour. So it was really special to hear your story, and even like scientists can make money, you proved that. So we are really happy to have you on our FDP, sir.
To share with you, in my whole life I bought 5 cars in India, and all my cars were paid by technology transfer money. I haven't used my salary as yet. Thank you.
So with this, we would like to conclude our final session of the day, and we thank Professor Rakesh Bhatnagar once again for his time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So regarding attendance of the participants, like I will be floating a feedback form at 5:30, so you can fill it up, and that will be taken as your attendance for the day.
5:30 though. Why not now?
Okay, I'll try to do it at the earliest time.
It's been a long day. I think one can wind up.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so give me a couple of minutes, so I will share that form, and I will also share the link for tomorrow.